All right, welcome to June 2nd, June 2nd Java operators meeting. I hope everyone is having a good week so far. Let's see, do we have any new faces today? I don't think. No. Just the usual suspects. Okay. All right, for community interest, just a update. So I think not last week, the week before last, I was at KubeCon EU giving an update on the operator framework. And one of the things that I mentioned was the Java operators that you can do with the operator SDK now. And it was just a brief mention kind of describing what it is and, highlighting the new things we've done just across the framework, Java being one of them. But two interesting pieces. So there's the slide deck and the recording, and then two links to the recording, because after the session was over, there were two questions. And one of the questions happened was a user created their first operator using the Quarkus. I wasn't clear on whether they used like just straight Quarkus or whether they were using the Quarkus extension or how they were doing it, but either way, they were interested in the Java one. And they did have a question regarding status implementation. They were aware of what controller runtime does on the Go side. So it probably, if Christoph or Attila could watch that section later, and I don't know, we can probably add a comment to the video to answer some of the questions for anyone that was there.
Yep.
And then the third one, I think the second question, I think I handled that one okay, which was basically they were wondering the performance between a Java operator and a Go one. And I basically highlighted the fact that Quarkus has a native mode, and based on those performance numbers, are just a hair slight slower than Go, but almost equivalent. Whereas in Java native mode, it was much slower. But using Quarkus would make it practically equivalent, and you probably wouldn't even notice. So hopefully that will drive a little adoption towards that end. So those are the two Java related questions that came up during the talk.
Yeah, it would be interesting to get some actual numbers on that topic, like maybe with the memcached operator, or like implement the same operator in Go and Java, because I'm not at all convinced that. I mean, it depends what they mean by performance actually, because in JVM mode, I mean, in Java native mode, I mean, Java is actually pretty fast.
Yeah, and it could. Yeah, that is a good question, because I know from the I think it was the Quarkus deck, they showed performance, but it was startup performance.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
the JVM started slower, but that doesn't necessarily mean the reconcile loop is slower.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it depends what you want as far as runtime characteristics go. The Quarkus native mode for operators, actually, I would argue that it doesn't necessarily make sense. I mean, well, it makes sense, but it's not as required, I mean, not required, but as critical as in other container-based applications. I mean, sure, you have better startup performance, but actually operators are more alike to traditional Java application servers, where they run a long time. I mean, usually in your cluster, your operator pod is not supposed to get destroyed all the time, right?
Right.
So it's not typical. I mean, it more or less follows a more typical Java application pattern than other container-based applications, I would argue. So
Yeah, that makes sense because the operator itself will likely, even if it took a little longer to start, it's only that one time, and then you're doing the reconcile. Whereas other applications which are getting
because
killed,
it's going to use less RAM and yeah, in that case, the pod might get killed more often than usual. I mean, I don't know how the Kubernetes scheduler works actually, if it has some priority as far as what gets killed, probably, but I don't know exactly how it works. I would assume that it would kill the controllers last, because like it would try to kill some other stuff before killing the controller pods, but maybe not. But yeah, so I mean, as far as performance goes, the Java purely at runtime performance, like as far as speed or throughput or stuff like that, the Java native, meaning in virtual machine mode, it's actually faster than the natively compiled binary. So the native binary is faster as startup and takes a lot less RAM, but that's it. Otherwise, as far as throughput and actual runtime performance, the Java version is faster.
oh wow, that's
because cool. I mean, Java, the virtual machine has been really tuned for like 20 years, or I don't know, maybe 30 years now, almost, I guess. Yeah, almost 30 years, 25 years at least, for that kind of long running processes, and it keeps optimizing as it goes. So you get really good performance if it actually achieves to run a long time. Where Java sucks is that if you kill it and restarts, and basically if it keeps going down and up and back down, then that's gonna suck. But if Java gets the chance to run for a long time, then the performance will be actually pretty good. So it would be interesting to see, to get some actual numbers for comparison, like with an equivalent operator that kind of does the same reconciliation logic, and see how it compares.
I don't know if you can you hear me, guys?
yes.
Yep. So just one point to add to that. So on the beginning of the operator, there is this syncing process where we have the informers and everything first caching the resources, where basically the informers watching. And I guess that it will be very interesting to measure how much time that process gets. And now, in addition, we could optimize that it's basically one by one, starting the event sources. So even that could add up to the start time when the real processing is started in the operator. So actually, I will create an issue to do that in parallel, maybe in the future.
Actually, I think we start them in parallel, actually. If I remember correctly, they started with each of the event sources started with a parallel. I mean, we iterate over them with parallel string. So I think they should be started in parallel.
It can be a bit, but then it's not really good because the controller resource event store needs to be the first.
Yeah, but this, I mean, the controller event source and the retry one are started first, but then the other ones are started in parallel, if I recall properly.
I'm checking now in the code. It's not. It started just a for loop now.
It is.
Yeah.
Let me check, because I think at some point it was in parallel.
I can send you the link to the code in the chat.
You added the there it is.
Yeah, but that's one. Let's see.
This is an event source manager. So I had to fix that because then it can be an issue with the cross-referencing the resources.
Yeah, but that's why at some point there was some ordering on the keys for the event sources, so that we could we made sure that the controller event source was started first.
Yes, now it's also made sure. It just what I'm saying is that first, I think the proper what we want to achieve or maybe improve on this is that start the controller event source, wait until that it's really fully started, and then start parallel with the other event sources.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we should do. Yeah. I mean, and actually the workflow could help there as well, because then you can start them in the proper order based on the workflow, right?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I guess I could, except if there are more, I don't know. So it's yeah, theoretically yes, in some cases.
I mean, anyway, let's take that offline.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would definitely be interesting to get performance numbers to have some informed I mean, yeah, to basically make sure that we what we tell people is actually true. Because yeah, intuitively you would say that the Go version is faster, but it might not actually be the case. I don't know.
Yeah, but like your comment about what like startup versus the actual processing, I discounted. I didn't think about the processing being different, but that's true, because the startup performance is one thing, but then the actual operation is another.
Yeah.
And depending on what the user is looking for. So cool. Any other community interest folks wanted to bring up before issue triage? Announcements, topics.
Yeah, maybe just to mention that we now added milestones for 3.1 and 3.2. I think so it's kind of users can see what is expected on these releases. I think Chris added 3.1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I wish the milestones were easier to find, because when you're not used to them, I had the same what the F
I'm sitting there
moments when I was looking at it, and I'm like, okay, where the hell are they?
Yeah.
But then I remember they are under issues, and then you find them, but it's not obvious.
You got to see me scan the entire front of GitHub, like, okay, where the hell is
I'm
this?
pretty impressed you found them fairly quickly. It took me much longer last time.
Oh, that's funny. No, that's cool. Good to see. And then okay. No, that's good. How did you determine, I guess these were just things that didn't make 3.0 that still needed to get done?
Yeah, basically 3.1 is about workflows, to have this complete workflow implementation, which is almost there, and some additional stuff. And the 3.2 is about all the corner and specific cases about dependent resources. So, but 3.1 is actually very close, I hope, next or week, or it doesn't seem to from the chart, but it's actually not much missing, and some of these are actually done. So yeah.
Awesome. Okie dokie. Let's go into here. Do we have at least? Looks like you guys have been triaging most of them anyway.
Yeah, maybe the first one is interesting. It's just basic. It's basically about we implemented this feature that if the operator is running, then and you have a set of namespaces that are watching not the whole cluster or not just one namespace, then it's possible to on an already running operator with a very nice API change those set of namespaces are watched, and then all the informers, all the informers and event sources are stopped in the background, and if in case of addition there are new informers created for those namespaces. And there is I was contacted by Morhidi, is Matyas, he's basically there for testing purposes, would need to have also switch between the all namespaces and set of namespaces. Yeah, I've for now added to the 3.2 milestone. It's probably not for production use or something. It doesn't make that much sense for production. So yeah, we'll ask. Yeah.
And this is actually to switch it live while it's running?
Yes. It's already done. They are using it while it's running. It's yeah, and but it's basically about the switching also to the watch all namespaces mode to watch selected names. For now, we are just supporting set of namespaces, not switching between all clusters and subset of. It's just basically changing the set, what is not supported.
And they get the namespace list from a config map, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in other words, they could be getting ABC, and then you could change that to be just ABCD or AB. Yeah. But this is asking to go from ABC to watch all.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's actually, I mean, I was reluctant to implement that feature because it's kind of weird, because if you I mean, basically the operator has rights over all the namespaces, but for some reason they don't want the operator to watch all the namespaces. Because I mean, if you switch the namespace that you are watching, then that means you have to have the permissions on to do stuff on that namespace, right? And typically, when you only watch a limited set of namespaces, it's because you don't want to have your cluster have cluster-wide permissions, basically.
But that can be also changed in runtime on the fly.
Yeah.
So if they're changing it in the background, it's some other mechanism.
Yeah. I agree, but it's kind of a corner case, I would say. It's.
Yeah. I'm interested actually on I think the Kafka team, Kafka operator also has this use case, no? That they are watching just some namespaces.
I think they probably watch all the namespaces. I don't know for sure, but I think they probably watch all of them.
Okay. Because kind of I remember that sometimes we are solving that already before with Kafka operator, but okay, maybe not. We'll ask on the chat.
I did ask them actually, and they said I don't recall their answer 100%, but I remember asking them how they were handling it, and I think the answer was we are watching all the namespaces.
Okay. Yeah.
What's this one?
I would define versus dependencies. It's just a kind of a place we have so integrated. Yeah, so we have these annotations which I will provide maybe a description, but it's already in another issue described. Sorry, I will link it. If you take a look on this umbrella issue, then it basically that has all the links, and the first link is on the whole main design, which is already.
This guy here depends on this one. I think that was the one I was just on.
But this is basically the issue it's 3.1 is all about.
Boy, my internet is going in and out because I missed the last 2 seconds.
Okay, so if you click on the first one,
This one here. There you
there's
go.
then it's,
Wow, look how low that is. What the hell?
it's GitHub or
It's definitely my end. Oh yeah, it's pissed. You guys aren't seeing it either, are you?
I'm seeing it now.
Okay.
This is it.
Oh, there it is.
So basically, if you scroll it down, then this design with annotations there, up. Yeah, there this
Okay.
at dependent. Then basically, this issue is about that to have this possibility to define workflows with these annotations. And
Oh, okay. Okay, I mean, seems reasonable enough.
yeah, it's a nice decorative way, I think so.
That's cool.
I just wanted to ask something if there are no other issues. I think most of them we triaged.
Yep. So,
So if I'm not, what is the, so how are you removing finalizers? If, how is it in Contour runtime or in Operator SDK? If somebody wants to remove the finalizer, it's a patch, it's an update, it's with optimistic looking, without optimistic looking.
oh dear.
It's not out of the box supported by Contour runtime as far as I know. So usually, I guess there is just best practice.
I rarely have seen the request for someone to remove it in code. I know that it's come up often when they're doing something from the CLI, like using kubectl or OpenShift OC. And then at that point, they usually will edit the resource and delete the finalizer there. Often, well, usually the only time they want to delete them is something is stuck. And they're like, well, if I get rid of the finalizer. I know that David Eads from the API server had a long, trying to remember if it was an email or a blog post about that. And they frown upon that and say it's dangerous and you shouldn't do it. So I think if you allow a user to do it from the CLI, that's one thing. But if you're adding it to library code to allow them to do it, it's usually frowned upon. It can have side effects. Did I drop? Okay.
It gets a chance to do something. So why shouldn't controllers be able to remove their own finalizers?
Yes, so this is about own finalizers, not some extra.
Yeah, it's just dealing with your own controllers finalizer, basically.
Okay, so you're basically just removing your own, or wanting to.
Yeah, and the question is, what is the? I mean, is controller runtime doing it? Is it using a patch? Is it using optimistic looking? Things like that, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I don't know how we're doing it.
Just because we had a quite very to correctly automate this that works for all cases. It's we first wanted to do with patch, then it turned out that there are some issues with patch when there are multiple finalizers. at the end, I did it with the update with optimistic locking. When it fails, it's just in place retries it. So reads the resource again and removes it and tries it until it's done, basically with a limit. Because yeah, maybe it's worth to take a look on that issue. So just maybe somebody has something to do about tell about this. If you makes sense. Can I share my screen?
Oh yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah, I guess a question that we had also was with respect to the patch behavior. I mean, the Kubernetes patch behavior, basically, because it seems really weird that I mean, basically, if you have a sequence of stuff, like if you, yeah, like what Attila is showing, it's basically you're addressing in the patch the item you want to remove from the list via its index, but patch is supposed to be used in a concurrent manner so that several controllers could be updating the same list at the same time, and then therefore the index is not a stable identifier for what you are trying to remove. So it feels kind of weird that patch would be implemented that way.
Yeah, and basically there is I think a proposition to fix this in JSON patch and to have it by remove by value, but I think it's not there, and at least our library doesn't compute it that way. And basically there are two cases. One of them is somebody removes, there is a order, there are two finalizers. The second target, we want to remove the target one, the second one, which we added by the framework, but somebody else like added the first one. Like I saw it at least also in practice that for namespaces, for example, OC added sometimes ago some finalizers. And so if it happens that the resource is marked for deletion, then the other controller removes the first finalizer, then this one becomes the first one. And then this request fails with the remove finalizer one, because there is just one finalizer that has the index 0. And the other problematic case is when there is free, the target is the second one, and somebody removes the other finalizer, then it becomes the first one, and then the request removes the third, which is the fork. So it's kind of a classic ordering issue. It's something extra interesting. It just problem is that without optimistic locking, just doing the patch, this is clearly not going to work in general. So what we basically did is that we just remove it with update, with put, with optimistic locking, and if that fails, then we just read the resource again and try to remove that finalizer and try. By index. Yeah, but just basically, yeah, we had these issues with and this is especially a problem because yeah, when this almost always happens when somebody updates the resource last time with the status with the patch, that's increased the resource version, and then before we are doing just purely with optimistic locking, and if that failed, that introduced the retry and stuff. So it's almost always happens. So it was a quite kind of serious issue. It wasn't inconsistent in there because it was retried and it worked. But basically, this is the only solution I found that we found that solves these problems in all cases, to retry with optimistic locking and update. I don't know. So if somebody has somehow had this problem before or have a better solution, let us know. But in general, this is, I think, what is actually solves it in all cases, and only, yeah, I think only this.
Okay. Yeah, that second, I mean, your solution clearly makes sense. But I am curious now as to how that patch is intended to work, because that seems dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, if you have
Especially in
a
that
list of,
that
yeah,
especially in the one with the case where you have other target and third, and you end up inadvertently deleting third. That
I
one's the
mean,
scariest to me.
basically patch with a sequence. I mean, if you have a list of items, patch is probably not gonna. I mean, it might not do what you expect it to do. At least with that implementation of JSON patch. Maybe there are other implementations, but
Yes, I think with even so, the Fabricate client I think doesn't support now merge patch, JSON merge patch, but even that is a problem if you are doing it concurrently, because then it basically in JSON merge patch you set a list that you want to the target list, but that again adds back the other finalizer if somebody removed it. Maybe I can just describe that also in this issue that doesn't work either at the end. So yeah, so basically we ended up with this. So yeah, it solves it. So yeah, not great, not terrible.
Hey, it works.
Okay. I can't unshare my screen. What the heck? Okay, I think it's completely frozen. Okay, now something happened.
That's hilarious. Now I lost where the share button was. There it is. Okay. Go back. Okay. I mean, you guys have been doing a good job of keeping up with your issues. We have not. Same old 4.
I don't think there's anything new there.
Yeah.
well, maybe we can discuss the pull request that Lax opened.
Yes. Did you have a specific question or?
Well,
You
I have looked at it, but since I'm not very familiar with what the operator SDK bundle command is supposed to be doing, I'm basically lacking context.
Okay.
To provide enlightenment or it's simply not dumb opinion.
Right. So the idea is, so the SDK itself with Go, Ansible, all the other plugins, they all are currently using the standard config based on customize. So like the manifests and everything are generated by another set of plugins. There's a manifest and a scorecard plugin that are generating these config. And actually, no, it's manifest and customize. Because the Java plugin via the extension is generating a lot of the manifest information from Maven. You know, when you run the Maven target, you get that target directory. Well, because that's there, these plugins that we used to have don't actually work because they require the config directory to be there and are based off of customize. So that means when someone generates this plugin, they don't have a way to generate the bundle for OLM using the same mechanisms, because most of the SDK users are familiar with make Docker build, that'll build the operator, but then they're used to doing a make bundle, and that make bundle will generate the bundle directory for them. And then there's a bundle build and a bundle push, which will build the image of the bundle for OLM. So
Okay.
what this is attempting to do is adding the 3 make targets, bundle, bundle build, and bundle push, and integrating that so that it can use the artifacts generated from the Maven target, because you are generating the Kubernetes YAML, you are generating the CRD, and that's the information we need. So this takes that and is passing it to operator SDK. So the key difference is let me find the generate bundle here in the Go one. This line up to here, this cat is actually like customize build config. And then we pipe that into generate bundle to the SDK. So SDK is what knows how to write the bundle. It doesn't care what the information is as long as it's, Kubernetes objects. And then it can parse those out and generate the bundle as needed. If I open up.
Yeah, because more recent versions of the extension actually generate the bundle as well. So
Find this. Yeah, this is what we're doing in all of the other projects, because we're relying on Kustomize to do it. Now, generate bundle doesn't care. That's why since we don't have Kustomize on the Java side, the intent was, okay, what do we have? We already have these files. There has been a request to try to genericize the OLM integration into its own plugin so that plugin writers don't have to worry about it. And then you should be able to chain them. In other words, if you wanted to write a new plugin for Rust and generate Rust operators, then instead of having to deal with OLM itself, the ultimate goal is to have an OLM plugin that you can integrate with, and it'll automatically handle doing this for you. In the interim, this was kind of a first step of how do I get there? Let's do this. What do we have? Because what we're finding is as we go into a phase 2 world, we're going to start losing control over where people put their manifest, where they have the CRDs placed. Java was the first one, because with the other 3, we knew they were going to be in a config directory. Here we didn't. So this was kind of like, oh, you're generating them, but they're here. So we anticipate in the future one day this other plugin will have to know either some places it needs to look, or maybe you have to give us a flag to tell us where this information is so that it can generate these bundles. So that's why this was there. And you said it was generating a bundle from the Quarkus extension now?
to basically be able to work.
Gosh, I think I keep dropping out. What was the last thing everyone heard me say?
Gosh, I think I keep dropping out.
Okay. So I did say that, well, I think I missed what your question was. I had asked if the Quarkus extension was generating the bundle.
Yeah. Yeah, in some, I mean, the newer version of the Quarkus extension releases, generates the bundle. It still uses OLM for some of the stuff, but a lot of it is generated from Java itself. So that's why I was wondering what is the input of generate bundle from operator SDK, so that
Oh, the input to it is a series of YAML with Kubernetes objects.
yeah, but I assume these are not random objects, right? So is there some documentation as to what needs to be there, or and basically what does it do? Is it just like putting everything in the same directory under some spots? I mean, I don't know for sure.
It generates them in. Let me see. There should be a output directory. If not, it is in a bundle directory that it outputs it in.
Yeah, because I see
Yeah,
the
it
next
doesn't-
command is validating the
Yes,
bundle.
it puts them in a bundle directory, and in that bundle, it is going to have a manifests directory and an annotations directory, which is the bundles, the spec for the bundle. And then the manifest directory, it just contains CRD, your deployment, which is in all of this Kubernetes.yaml, and then it generates a CSV to put in there as well from this.
Check.
Did you say something, Lucky?
No, just in bundle gets created.
So the primary driver was consistency from the makefile point of view for compared to the other plugins.
Okay.
I can show if like they want to see like what bundle exactly gets created.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you want to, you can share your screen. I'll stop.
Yeah. Just a second. So I ping a link in a chat which I tried for these steps. So we added in the makefile. If we see here, we are able to see my screen. In makefile, we added the bundle in this way. The right now like Jesus showed, and if we do make bundle, right? Let me show the. So here in Memcache, we don't have anything as of now. So when we do a make bundle, so it validates. You can see like everything got successfully created. So you can see like bundle with what Jesus told, like manifest and metadata with the bundle.docker file gets created. So these are the data for Docker file, which we needed for creation of image, bundle image. And the manifest, these are the 4 files. CRD, then service. The main is like role binding and this CSV. So this is the main file which we needed in order to generate image for our bundle. So, and in metadata also we have like annotations. So these are the annotations. Yeah. These are the only data gets created, and using these data we will create the next step like creation of image for bundle, and we'll push it and we'll run it using like OLM run bundle. Any questions?
So it effectively makes it consistent with the other plugins.
So it generates in bundle.
And the things that it's generating come from whatever the input was. And like I said, because the extension is generating the CRD and the operator, the Kubernetes.yaml, we wanted to be able to reuse that since we're not using customize.
Yeah, where do you get the service and the RBACs, I guess? You extract them from the Kubernetes.yaml.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm wondering why we're not doing that. But yeah, the extension now is generating a bundle. An OLM bundle for the operator that gets. So we generate the CSV, the CRD, obviously, the annotations.yaml as well, and the bundle Docker file as well. But I guess we're not. I don't know why. Yeah, I didn't implement that part, so I'm not very familiar with it. I just know it kind of works because we have CI that actually checks that, like in the Quarkus extension project, we use GitHub Actions and the build workflow that we use it basically generates the bundle, and it does a lot of stuff. It starts a cluster, installs OPM, and the operator SDK tool. And then it creates the bundle for one of our operators and checks that the operator can be installed via OLM. Operator SDK OLM install, and then checks that the operator actually works after that. So I assume that our bundle is kind of working. Because otherwise those steps wouldn't be working. But yeah, we don't generate the service or RBAC stuff. I guess we just extract them directly from. But anyway, that's something I guess I need to double check at some point.
How is that triggered? How does the bundle generation?
That's part of the Maven build. If you use, the extension now in actually which version? I don't even recall which version of the Quarkus extension the Java plugin is using.
Here, let me look real quick because I was just there. It is.
Yeah, but we're still seeing Laxi's screen. So
I'll stop sharing.
thanks. Oh, I guess I can find it as well.
Shit, where is it?
It's in.
God.
It's in. If you type T, just type T on your keyboard.
What?
And then type pom again. No, actually, yeah, that's the first file. That's not pom. It's just pom XML. I don't know why I was thinking pom, but so it's 307. Okay. Let's see. I don't even recall when we introduced the bundle support. Let me check. Yeah, this stuff, it gets complex because it's like not straightforward which versions are being used. Let me check the releases. Yeah, I guess that's introduced in version 4.0 of the extension. which isn't released yet. So
Okay. Yeah, part of the driver for this was we're trying to also downstream this and do a tech preview with the OpenShift release. And the one missing piece was OLM integration to at least make it tech preview and usable from the operator SDK's point of view. Because in 4.10, you were able to use the downstream SDK, generate a Java, but you couldn't. You would have to build the bundle by hand. And the and like I said, there is and I can send you, there's a Jira that's tracking for future work, which is the idea to create a OLM plugin that can be used in conjunction with all the other ones, so that you don't have to, because the problem is anytime OLM changes or the spec changes, they all have to get updated. So the idea of being able to create a new plugin that gets chained with the other ones is part of the factor as well. And this at some point will likely get replaced by that new plugin when that gets done, as will the Ansible, Helm, and Go, where it generates the OLM integration.
okay, yeah, we need to look into this.
And if you have the 4.0, what we could do is we could probably look into that as well and see.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Also, the other question is that yeah, people have been asking about how do we support several versions of the Quarkus extension via the operator SDK plugin, because basically some people might not be ready to switch to the 4.0 version or the extension, which maps to the 3.0 version of the Java operator SDK. All this is very confusing, but
yeah, in order to do multiples, we'd have to do what we did with Go. With the Go one,
so it's basically duplicating the code, right?
there's two different plugins. You'll see a V2 and a V3. The format is different between them, and there is two different Goes. So when you specify them at the initialization, quick start, Go init, of course, it's the default. Lame. There is an option that you pick plugin and you give it the version, so you can do something like go.v2 and it will use that plugin. By default, Go v3 I think is the default. That's why it's not showing. Maybe it'll look similar to. It's similar to this, except there would be a version that you can specify and it knows to use that plugin. That's the only way we know to do multiples. So we'd have to create a different plugin. You know, we can reuse clearly a lot of the code, but it would have to be a different entry point to support a new one.
So the question is, do we want to do it or not?
So I mean, we can.
I mean, the changes shouldn't be in the generated code. The changes shouldn't be that big. The problem is all the scaffolding code that then you need to maintain two versions of of essentially the same code, which gets cumbersome. I mean, which gets tricky quickly.
Yeah. I mean that is the one downside. But I think if you're only doing 2, it depends on how many you're doing. If this becomes a standard of I'm going to support V1, V2, V3, V4, and you get that, at some point you need to start taking some off. Maybe if it's an N and an N-1, kind of allowing a new one to come in, and then we're doing one in the QBuilder world. There is a customized V3, and I think a V4 is coming. So those will live alongside for a little bit before V3 goes away. So it happens, and it's kind of the state of the world for the plugin system right now.
Okay. Something to consider. So far, people haven't been clamoring too much about it, but I mean, it's been asked already, and I think there's an issue somewhere.
Yeah, I think I don't remember if it was Slack, Discord, or might have been Java chat.
It was
somewhere
on Discord. Yeah,
and it's probably something we at least have to have an answer of. Yes, it is possible, and the question is this something we want to do? And if yes, go ahead and make plans to do it.
but not today.
No.
And we're out of time anyway.
Yeah, I was just about to say. All right, folks. I appreciate everyone's time, and thank you for the lively discussion. And awesome. Have a great afternoon, evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.